Good morning, good morning, good morning. Um, it's Monday the 12th, I think. Still feeling pretty bad. Yesterday I was basically completely wiped out. Whatever it is I'm doing to wake these muscles up that are dead is taxing to my body in a way that's hard to describe. It doesn't fit into the category of like just kind of muscle soreness or something like that after working out. It's very different. I think there's a physical aspect, so the muscles are coming back online and repairing, and so that I think that requires a lot of energy, and I'm not eating the best because I don't have any money, so I'm eating as simply as I can to kind of maintain that. So that's there. But then I think there is I can feel it in talking. It feels like I'm pushing through mud or something like that. And it like like stuck in quicksand or something. Like it's just my mental state is so exhausted that it's hard to even kind of do this. And so this is but I'm doing it because I made a commitment to do it. Also, it's like I'm keeping a log because what I'm doing is strange. So I want to know, because that's kind of it's a type of science, believe it or not. But yesterday, basically, I was wiped out, like completely wiped out. Just couldn't, like my whole body was just absolutely aching. I don't know whether it feels like being poisoned, so I don't know whether something I'm doing is perhaps like damaging certain areas and like stirring up some type of like toxin or something like that. Sorry. But just like all through here, really like stiff and sort of just feel like really ill, like a flu. Like I feel like I have a temperature, and just fucking terrible. But then the response from the area is there's certain key points there where I'm like I can feel. It's mainly like the upper section of my glutes and these muscles in my back there, and also the like internal muscles on my leg that control if these are legs that control this movement. They, in my determination now, were basically just non-existent. I could not do that. And the combination between those muscles and the glute muscles to like lift the pelvis back and do this thing while I do that is what is giving me the biomechanics of a normal person. Like it, and that to me like feels like the equivalent of, it's like a glimmer of being not paralyzed, because there's massive sections of my body that were paralyzed. And that makes it, I think that the weirdest bit is that I was still doing my job. I was still functioning. I was still moving around, doing everything to a point, because, and I've heard this a lot, like our bodies are very good at compromising and adapting. And so whatever created the circumstances for that to happen, I'm not really sure. And it happened in a way that I didn't really notice, because I was just working. Like I was just working and getting things done and this is like 12 years of that. And but my body just figured out a way. It's like it decided to just destroy those muscles and then just use what it had, and that's it's just a weird feeling. I think, like, even talking about it, honestly, it's kind of, it feels similar to like if you got your arm removed and you were talking about your arm. Like, it's the same. It's confronting. It sits in this weird place. It's kind of upsetting. It's yeah. I get like upset for myself that I was in that it got that bad, and I had to do this to get out of it. And that you can't tell. I think that's the strangest part, is that this is not, like I believe I could kind of identify this. If I saw someone, I'd go, oh yeah, I know what you've got going on. But the fact that I went to multiple professionals and nobody found this is just shocking to me. Like, it doesn't make sense. I'm just like, what are they doing? How could this be perceived as a joint issue is just unbelievable. It is not. It is absolutely a scam, because and then the problem is, it's like, I build things for a living. I engineer things for a living. I'm constantly dealing with structural issues and weight issues and balance issues and counterweight and structural systems, which is what they're like, they're going to fix. They're like, oh, it's to do with the joint. It's not to do with the joint. Like, the joint is the least appropriate place to make changes to. Because the joint is the most structural point, the pocketed joint. And do you know what I mean? There's no structural damage going to happen there. Like, it's not going to. This is the worst thing that I had. Was one of these surgeons told me, he goes, oh, it almost looks like the ball of your leg is going to go through your hip bone, and that fucked me up, honestly. Like, I'm not an expert at this. I haven't spent my life doing this. Someone telling you that your leg is going to bust through your pelvis, which is like shocking. That's like being, you know what I mean? If you jump off something, you're like, whoa, what do you mean it's going to go through my pelvis? It's going to stab into my intestines and shit like that. My pelvis is going to collapse. Now, that just seems insane. Like, I cannot believe that person said that to me. It's like, it's absolutely ridiculous. I feel very, very, very pissed off with that individual. And then it's the same with like physios and GPs. It's just none of them could even identify this. And we just have no idea. These people are just absolute frauds. There is like, we need to get to a point where where we're treating that system as basically just salesmen, because that's what they are. There is and this is very tricky, because it's like they are the holders of all the technology. They're the ones that can get the blood tests. They're the ones that can get the other tests. So they're gatekeeping you from this information systems, and then everything has to filter through them. And it's shocking to me that they're getting treated as this all-knowing healthcare system, and our whole healthcare system is filtered through them. So you can't, like, what I'm doing, one of the most stressful parts about it is that it's not, I was having a conversation yesterday. I was saying it feels fucked, because I still am getting, like, I feel the perception that it's like, oh, you're just not doing anything, or you just whatever, because I haven't had a doctor say, yeah, you're rehabbing this, or you're doing this. And all the rehab stuff, if you go to a physio, it's nothing. It's not going to do anything. And I think the scariest thing is, if this was, hopefully for everyone, this was caused by a brain injury, which isn't great, but I can take that. That was something I've already processed. I didn't really particularly process the severity of that. So hopefully for everyone, I had a pretty horrific head injury, and then that fucked something up in my brain and amplified the effects of this, and destroyed my muscles, which I think is pretty consistent out there. Like that, there's examples of that happening. The fact that it didn't get identified is pretty scary, because it got a lot worse, and there was 8 years added on to that, because it got misdiagnosed as some type of mental disorder, and that basically ruined my life. And it wasn't like I was saying that when that was going on. I was telling everyone. I was considering getting a restraining order on my mother for interfering with that, and basically acting like a spruiker for the pharmaceutical company, because that's what you made her into. And then from her thing, that convinced, she's the authority, that she convinced my children's mother the same thing. And all I was trying to do is do what I'm doing now, and getting great results from it. But I got 8 years added onto that process because of this just incompetent system. And now I'm tarred with this brush that makes anything I'm doing have to be filtered through, oh, he's just a crazy person. Fuck you. Unless we want to do the same, I'll just rock up to all your houses and be like, all these windows are fucked, mate. You better get your checkbook out. This is dangerous, which they are. Every window in Australia is fucking dangerous as far as I'm concerned. We've got the worst standards on fucking planet Earth. Brand new houses just being pumped out with like the most dangerous, fucking inefficient, stupidest pieces of garbage windows you can imagine. Why is it any different? But to make it positive, this, bar the fact that it's wiping me out, and that's why I'm doing this. Like today, I feel slightly better than yesterday was a full gone. Like I couldn't do anything. And it's fun. The strange thing is, it seems to, like I'm getting a inflammation response, which is probably, my guess is, because I'm aggravating all this thing. I'm guessing that there's some type of chemical that's released when you do that, but that's a general chemical, because my wrist started going funny. My wrist started getting sore. I started getting pain in my arms, and I think that can only be explained because my arms are strong, my wrists are strong. But the kind of explanation I'm landing on is like, okay, if I'm aggravating this area, my body is producing these inflammatory response to either build up cartilage in that area or to repair tendons and connections that I'm damaging by pushing past that point to open up this area, and the reason I have a good idea about what this is happening, when I did completely tore my MCL about 6 years ago, and it completely tore, and it had 6 inches separation, and it tore and flung back. Now that ligament grew back and connected, and I could feel it doing that. So there's a lot of people out there that go, you need surgery on that to reconnect it, and you need, if you don't get surgery, it's never going to heal the same, and all this stuff. And because I didn't have private health, I didn't do anything, it took ages to get in there. They basically told me, they're like, oh, it's too late to do surgery now. And then they just told me, oh, it'll heal anyway. And I was like, what? How's it going to heal 6 inches? And it did. I don't know how it does it. It somehow sends out nodes and then reconnects and then fucking pulls itself back tight. It did the whole thing, and it's fucking strong. I can't even, this is all honesty, I can't remember which knee it was. I have no idea. And I've strengthened my knees that much that they feel bulletproof now. But the interesting thing, when in that healing process, I could very much feel the whole thing. So I could feel when it made contact, and I could feel dull pain if I'd put pressure on it. Very actually sharp pain, and then that increasingly dulled. And then I could actually feel that ligament had made connections on the bone and on the, maybe on the other muscles, as like a lattice to grab on to build structure while I was doing it. And then I could feel the process of when that ligament had fully healed and then was allowing itself to be torn off the bone, and that was part of the process. And that is what's happening in my hips. In the reverse, something stimulated my hips and pelvis to lock in. And this probably, I can't tell because I can't give myself a fucking autopsy, but what it feels like is that there is connections on everything that are so some of the tendons are just way too strong, way too attached to everything, locked in like a cast. And so, and probably because of the stimulation to do that, my body went, okay, yeah, do this fully, because you're never gonna, this is your life now. And so overcoming that is hey, it's I have to dig to the depth of my, willpower to break through that and go, no, you have to do this. You have to be this again. That was just a mistake. It's this is kind of what I have to tell myself. And I can feel that tearing and that movement. And a lot of it is phantom movement. It's I'll feel it go to here, and then sometimes I'll get to a point that's feels like pulling back a fucking incredibly tight bow, and then it will get to a point where it goes and then I get all this other movement after that. And that's how much That's what this process is. When I look at people doing like spinal rehab and things like that, I get emotional because it's like, I know what it is. I'm doing the same thing. I can't really explain how it got that bad. I do know what happened a year or two after getting this head injury. And I know that a lot of other things, I know I put on a lot of weight. I know my whole lifestyle changed. I had a bunch of issues, and this is consistent with the head injury like that. I pulled away from society. I didn't want to go out. I was, not wanting to be in crowded environments. But still, just the main thing I think is that I am gatekept from my own physical and mental well-being by a system of salesmen. And I'm not going to put up with it. These individuals, that industry has grown so much, it's like that it needs to be brought back down to size, even if that means just conceptually. We can't keep propping this industry up with government money. When I just went to prison, it's like half the prisoners in there are getting fucking drugged up. It's like they almost, literally, what it felt like to me being in there, because I don't do any of that, is like they're in there to get the drugs. They're in there to be drugged. And this is just everywhere. It's like it's the same with all the payments. It's the same with everything. Just this filthy, corrupt, absolute mess of a fucking system. And it's weird. It's like just to do what I'm doing, I have to end up exposing all this shit because I'm not interacting with any of it. I'm just sitting here trying to fix my own shit, which should be like, why has that disappeared from humanity? Why does that seem so weird? You know what I mean? Obviously, we have that capacity. Obviously we do. In mentally, physically, socially. So why is it such a struggle to reclaim that authority over your own life? And I think we're getting to a point where they are quite literally trying to domesticate humans, and it's not going to work because humans domesticate other animals. You can't domesticate a domesticator. You can't do it. Especially with the internet, it's just going to create absolute chaos. And the further you try and go, it's like, you're just like, oh yeah, we can do it. Whoever's doing it, whoever's trying to do it, you just obviously don't understand what you're doing. Like, you can't domesticate. You are the same thing. This superiority thing that you believe you have the right and the capability to do this, you are completely wrong. You are connected with the people you're trying to do it with. So as you go there, they're going there, and they're gonna know what you're doing, and they're going to fucking respond, and you can't cage us all in. You get away with it in like jails and shit like that. You tried to do it with the pandemic. It's like that pandemic was sitting on the edge, and you fucking know it. And you've blown your shit now. This control is going to ruin everything. We are not a system of slaves. We are not a system of sheep or cattle or livestock. We are an interconnected system of information feedback and development into our environment. That's how we work on equal levels. Even when you look at a king, it's like royalty for the last 200 years has not been this superior thing. It has realized its position as a focal point and merely just a focal point to keep the structure together. Not as some all-knowing, all-seeing, all-whatever expert in the world, Because it can't be. Guess who the expert of like Balga is? Some kid in Balga. Not you. Like an information system should optimize and focus in on the person that is obviously the most qualified for whatever particular node of society that you're trying to look at. And that, when it comes to this person here, when it comes to the Shannon Wise node, it's like, I'm the fucking expert on my fucking area, not you. And then I want to know, it's like, where does that structure go to? Is that, do I maintain that authority to raise my children with that experience that I'm learning? Or is that your job? Have you taken over that job now? And this is where everyone is getting to. And it just shocks me. And it's like technology. I think what's happened is technology, the last decade of technology has enabled you to come so far in this control system, but you never for a second realize that, hey, that's every point you come closer to that, you're coming closer to absolute collapse. And collapse looks really fucking shit for everyone. So there's a point, there's a window that you can jump through and get an acceptable dismount, but you've got to let go of that ultimate control. Whoever is pushing that ultimate control thing, you are just completely deluded. You're not dealing with fucking cows or sheep or livestock. You're dealing with fucking smart fucking primates that all, I believe, have an interconnectedness, whether you want to call it, I know this is pseudo-scientific-y, but that morphic resonance thing, it's like, that's 100% fucking real. I don't know whether you call it that. I don't exactly know what the effect is, but I've witnessed it firsthand over and over and over again. Our whole species is elevating. So the more you try and cage us in, we're learning how to do it. And it's like, you're gonna put yourselves on the chopping block. And it's like that. Look at history. It's just what always happens. But we have an opportunity to build a system that's way better. And it's like a lot of these people, they just want that. They want their voice to be heard. They want to have an impact on their area. And it's like you're micromanaging the world because you're too frightened to give people control. We're hitting a scale where it's like, that's so precarious, and I can just feel it. It's like I look out there and I'm like, oh God. Like, I know I can keep this thing under control, but I look at other people, especially after just going to prison, I know there's a whole bunch of people out there that can't control their little vehicle that they walk around in. And if they get hold of a bunch of people who also can't control it and they start exhibiting their control on the other people, we're going to be fucked. And all I see, and if I look at history, I see, well, when you get governments that go totalitarian, you'll get some uprising of something that is also totalitarian, but a populist totalitarian movement that gets momentum. I've got it then on both sides. And apparently when I look at history, it's like that always loses. And that pisses me the fuck off. But if I do look at history, I go, well, there wasn't really this mechanism to do that. So if you were just sitting there getting it from both sides, you're getting it from government and you get it from the populace, it's like, what are you going to do? You can't spread your voice out. You've got no hope. At least now I can do this. At least now I can document it out. It's out there. But yeah, it's like jibing on a sailboat. If we're about to jibe, like we're about to accidentally jibe. If any of you know sailing, like we're hooking along, fucking blowing 30 knots, and whoever's on that tiller is fucking around. And they're about to cross the wind and we're about to fucking jibe. Like that. Boom's gonna swing around, the whole fucking thing is gonna shake. Someone's gonna get decapitated. Yeah, and that frightens me. And if you haven't experienced that, go and do it. Go on a sailing course this weekend if you're in politics. Tell them to do an emergency jibe, and you feel what that's like, and you feel what you're playing around with. Because I'm in a position where I'm exposing these problems. I'm saying, hey, our medical industry is basically just filled with salesmen, sales reps for drug companies and surgeries, and just a system that's just purely corrupt. But I can understand that. You know what I mean? There's always going to be a bit of corruption. We just need to bring it down and expose it and try to kind of change it. And I can be civil when I'm dealing with that. There's a lot of people that can't. And that's what we've seen in the past. I don't have a thing against doctors, I have a thing against corruption. If doctors all decided to be corrupt all at the same time, then I have a problem with all those doctors. And they should look in a history book and learn, and not identify me as this, because I'm trying to give you a warning. I'm trying to say, hey, you fucked up. You fucked up with the wrong people, with everyone at the same time now. Everyone knows exactly what's going on to some level. And you're sitting there and you are not prepared at all for that jibe. And that jibe can bring the scariest, most intense fucking parts of humanity straight into your front door, straight into your office door. And that's not me making a threat, that's me identifying past situations throughout history. And this is way worse. This is really bad. So there is a window where this industry can have a haircut, voluntary haircut, voluntary, not surrender, but voluntary, come forward and attempt to show humanity and to fix your dirty, rotten little fucking grubby little world. It's all intertwined with government and bullshit. And avoid getting smacked in the face with the boom. And this is a position I've always had throughout the whole thing. I was in these groups to do with what was going on with the mandates. And it didn't take me long to very quickly witness the same extremism that was going on with the mandates in these groups. And it was always my position. I'll quite happily go through those records and show that was the position I took. And you can just take my word for it, that I was a balancing middle position, holding it there, making sure that anything too extreme got shut down. And that's what frightened me. Because I could do that in that environment. I can't do that. And I'm not going to risk. If that kicks off, you know what I mean? I've got no chance of stopping it. I know that for sure. If that gets momentum, and it's where you need to be, you obviously are all fucking cowards, so you need to find some bravery, or you're all going to end up fucked. Your whole industry's going to be fucked. There's still plenty to salvage there. There's more than likely plenty of new advancements to go into once this barrage of fucking corporate filtering is gone. And some of you are going to, lose jobs. Some of you are going to lose your houses. Some of you are going to do this stuff. A lot of people, retirees and stuff, you're going to have to retire early. There's a whole restructuring needs to happen. It's just If you voluntarily restructure, you'll be far better off. If they restructure for you, and this isn't me, this is mobs of people will restructure your industry. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? If I was facing that, I'd be like, holy shit, I'm gonna fucking sort out my stuff voluntarily. And yeah, there needs to be some humility in these things. I don't care. It's like you did what, 7 years of school? Okay. I've been in my industry for 20 years. I've been studying this thing for like 7 years. I'm happy to go head to head with any of you on my body because I live in this thing. I know what's going on. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. It's a short one. Yesterday was pretty negative, and when I get that knocked out by this, I do just get really negative because it feels like I'll get momentum. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to do this stuff. And then I'm like, whoa, I'm dead. I can't do anything. I can barely lift my head up off the pillow. And I think that just must be. See, this is where, if you're a doctor, it's like, hey, what chemical is that? Is that how it works? That's how it feels like it works. I'm pretty connected to this thing. It feels like I've stimulated, like I feel like I'm getting poisoned. But then also I feel like there's repair being done. So that makes sense to me. I'm like, hey, does the body release a chemical that helps rebuild cartilage and tissue and bone and things like that? Because if it does, am I stimulating this chemical and then that's making me feel sick? That's what it feels like. That's a hypothesis. Is there any doctors out there that can kind of go, yeah, that's pretty accurate? And then I would argue, because this is why when I got prescribed anti-inflammatories, it was very much the same as when I got prescribed diazepam for anxiety. What I found was when I was first experiencing anxiety and panic attacks, it was really bad. It was really terrible. I before that thought there was just people being wusses and making it up, but then ran smack bang into it. I was like, holy shit, this is real. And there'd be points where I'd feel like I was going to hyperventilate or I was going to die. And so there was one point where I ended up being prescribed that. And I took all up of 2.5 pills. And the first one was like a lifesaver. I was like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you, this is like amazing. But then what I noticed is when I woke up, I noticed the anxiety spiked past where it had been very quickly. Like it had weakened my ability to be able to deal with it. And then so I took it again, and then I noticed it again, that same up spike. And the same exact effect happened with the anti-inflammatories. I was in pain. I was like, wow, I took all the pain away. And then the next day I was worse. Now this is what I get when I do this intense exercise or damage or like manipulation of this area that's intense manipulation of the area to stimulate growth. I get this knockback. But it's my belief that there's always a reason for it. So it's like, I believe that knockback is whatever chemicals are being released to stimulate the repair. And this is like, if I think of, say I'm in the wild, getting chased by a fucking lion, and I run my ass off and I break ligaments and break toes and things like, which I think like that's probably what would happen, and you wouldn't even feel it because you'd have adrenaline. So if you got really chased by something, you probably would, like, I'm not joking, you'd probably break toes, you'd break ligaments, you'd just keep going, you'd tear things, you'd tear muscles off, everything like that, but you get away. If that happened in the wild, if you got away from a fucking lion, it would be completely normal for you to find a really safe place and rest and repair. And that's what the stimulation would be like. If you start feeling sick and things like that, that's what I'm feeling. But in our world, it's always back to work, whip. The whip comes out. You got to get back to work. Come on, don't feel the pain, get back to work. And then nothing gets healed. And not only does nothing get healed, it's like the stress response is just continuously there. And yeah, so that's an example of what I believe I'm in. I actually have to stimulate up to get the strength to like even push to these positions. Like I have to kind of really work myself up to be like, yeah, come on, and really tense it, because it doesn't feel, my whole body is, it's like I said, it's like sticking a knife in my arm or something like that. And then I'm getting this inflammation response, but then I can feel the stress. And I've worked my way up from my feet up to my knees. Upper body was always okay, but I still do that there. And this is just this is the key hinge point that is connected to everything. It's connected to my spine, so that's immediately pretty serious level shit. It's connected to all my bowel and digestion and prostate and nerves and it's like a key point. And so what I'm finding is this takes a huge toll. Because it's like you almost can't do anything. You can have sore legs, like sore ligaments, you can kind of rest your legs. But when this is here, it's like you can't do anything. You just have to lay down. And yeah, so I'd be interested to know if there's some science backing that, my observation of that. I'm guessing there's a chemical being released that's purpose is probably to make me feel sick and make me find shelter and make me stop to be able to recover. And I'm looking forward to seeing what I'm like tomorrow. If tomorrow I'm just that little bit better, then I feel safe within that loop. I'm like, okay, I did a really hard day. It took me out for one day. The next day was okay, and then I feel better. That for the level of trauma that I'm putting on my body, I'm like, oh, that's actually okay. That's actually acceptable. And what also happens is when I get to that third day, my body reverts a bit, so I have to stretch back out again. But I find that a little bit easier, and every time I do it, it's a little bit easier and a little bit stronger. And the strength now is becoming undeniable. I'd had a lot of to and fro, but I'm getting confidence now to put confidence and muscle positioning. This is what it feels like to actually load up that hip joint and the glute with crazy weight. I'm like, oh, okay, wow, fuck, it works now. It feels sound, feels structurally sound and biomechanically good form. Whereas that was literally impossible to do. And so I would, like an idiot, a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, would doing deadlifts, and I would push the deadlift to the wrong form, and this is where I'd get a personal trainer being like, oh, you've got the wrong form, because he started when he's 22 with proper biomechanics. These guys just are not capable of they're just thinking you've got bad form, not that you physically cannot get into good form and you're actually being really strong in this weird adapted way because you can't do that. So it doesn't work. It's like refinement over progression. This is fucking everywhere. Everywhere I look, I see this same thing. And we're obsessed with progression. Yeah. And maybe it's my age. Maybe I'm getting to an age that feels whatever. It reminds me of the Japanese thing. I've forgotten the word now, but the constant refinement. And it feels like I know I'm on that track, so I know I'm on the tortoise track, but I'm building something that's so foundationally strong. that I just don't even worry. I don't even worry about what that rabbit's doing anymore. And I want to live in a place that is doing the same thing. And it worries me. I do not feel secure being in a place that is sacrificing stability for progression, especially if that progression is just something that's like aesthetically pleasing or like lowest common denominator stimulating to do with things that are not going to, because I just feel like we may as well just hand the keys over now if that's what we're going to do. So yeah, thank you for listening. Hope you're having a great day. Even at the end of this, I feel a lot better. So yeah, if you've got any feedback, if you've got a similar experience, I'd like to hear from you. Just fingers crossed. I think we're going to work this all out.